Hi, I'm Jordan Thorne, and we're here at Greenbuild 2019. Today I'm joined by Ralph DiNola. He's the CEO of the New Building Institute. Ralph, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan.
Amazing. So let's get started. Can you briefly talk about sort of how you got into your current role?
You want the long version or the short version? I'd say.
Up to you.
You know, so I've had, in terms of my career,
Yeah.
I've always been interested in environmental sustainability and the built environment. And so, you know, it started when I was young. I grew up in a rural part of New Jersey, and we had a older home that I really appreciated. And so I was kind of getting interested in you know, the building aspect, but also, you know, protecting nature. And so so that led to a career. You know, basically I studied historic preservation. I got a degree in historic preservation, and then I worked for a time with an architect, and then I worked for the National Park Service, which was, again, a great kind of connection of like nature and the built environment, because I was working on historic buildings.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I decided to go back to school, so I went to the University of Oregon. I got my master's in architecture.
Wow.
And then, again, started working for an architecture firm, more in kind of green building.
Okay.
So my first lead project was back, I think, in probably 1999, using version 1 of LEED at a college in Oregon. And then I started working with a firm called Greenbuilding Services, which is a consulting group. And I did that for about almost 14 years. And then the opportunity to join New Buildings Institute came up. And so I joined that. It was about 6.5 years ago.
Okay, amazing. So you sort of always have been passionate about sustainability.
Yeah, sustainability and the built environment.
And the built environment, yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
In what ways are your teams innovating to make progress towards the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that the UN has set?
So we focus on the built environment, but the implications of reducing the impacts of buildings, I think, address all of those goals.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to be maybe specific, you know, we're very focused on getting the building sector to zero carbon or zero energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, energy, you know, buildings use about 75% of the electricity we produce, result in about 40% of the carbon emissions in the U.S. Globally, you know, there's, you know, energy use is like 60% of the carbon emissions. So, so we're very focused on trying to get buildings to zero or to be, you know, net positive.
Yeah.
We have a strong focus on zero energy schools. So we actually have an initiative to try and get all schools to zero.
Wow.
And so that, you know, that idea of education and, you know, addressing access to education, you know, we believe that if we can get schools to zero, there's more of the financial resources to employ teachers and get resources for students.
Yeah.
And then I think about, you know, people in poverty, and so the sustainability goals there, and how, you know, almost half of the world's population cooks with wood or charcoal or, you know, animal dung, and that creates really unhealthy conditions, especially for women. So, you know, thinking about how we can move away from those sources of fuel, which cause air pollution and indoor health issues, towards things like efficient induction cooking, you know, and you know, more access to electrification. You know, there's 13% of the world's population still doesn't have access to electricity. So, you know, so some fundamentals around access to, you know, clean air, clean water, food, education. You know, those fundamentals, I think, we're very supportive.
Amazing. It sounds like you're doing a lot in a lot of different arenas, which is great.
Yeah.
Are there any exciting innovations or technologies being developed or currently on the market that you think might be a game changer in how companies more easily incorporate green design into the workplaces?
Yeah, so when I think about that, I think of a few things, and you know, building technologies. So, so I think the one technology that has so much promise globally is heat pump technology. So, you know, efficient heat pumps, you know, that basically take electricity and create either hot air or hot water, are incredibly efficient. They have coefficients of performance of 3 to 5, which means that they can convert a watt of energy to 3 watts of heat.
Wow.
Or 5 watts of heat. So we're very excited about electrifying buildings and using efficient heat pumps for that. And so there's, we have some goals around electrifying the built environment and converting, fossil fuel uses into electric heat pumps. So that's one technology. And then I think there's a couple of other interesting kind of recent technologies. Vacuum insulated glass, which is super efficient glass. That is kind of an emerging technology, and then vacuum insulated panels, which is a vacuum insulated insulation system. So out of like 1 inch space, you can get an R40 thermal resistance, which is
it kind of holds in the heat.
So it's a thin, it's both the glass and this insulated panel are providing really good insulation and thermal comfort in very little space, which is really something we need. So, and it makes the space really thermally comfortable, and so people use a lot less energy because they're more comfortable. So I think those are just a few examples.
Sounds like some really interesting kind of materials being used.
Well, and this is all part of the work we're doing to try and drive towards zero energy buildings. So those technologies are really key components.
Do you do a lot of educating businesses around those kind of technologies that they can sort of adopt?
Yeah, we have a whole effort. The Getting to Zero Leadership and Market Development is one of our programs. And so we're trying to gather all these lessons, the technologies, the strategies, the process that you use, and get it out to the building owners, developers, architects, engineers. So we've been doing this for almost 10 years now.
Wow.
And so we actually gather all this evidence in a database that's publicly accessible. We have
what's it called, if you don't mind?
So it's the Getting to Zero Buildings database, and you can find it at newbuildings.org.
Great.
And then we have another site called the Getting to Zero Forum.org website, and we have a hub there with over 300 resources that people can use to help get to zero.
Amazing. I think that's some really helpful resources. I think if people have the tools and sort of capability to learn a bit more, it feels a little bit more accessible and knowing how to solve it.
That's
essentially.
Right. Yeah.
Building green can often be quite costly upfront and a costly investment to stakeholders. How can leaders build a case for those stakeholders to essentially buy into sustainability? So
I think green building can cost more, but it doesn't have to. And I think that there's a concern about perception of cost, but there are people that are paying more than they might have to. And so there's evidence, there's actually several studies. Most recently, the US Green Building Council Massachusetts chapter just put out a study basically showing that you can build to zero at no additional cost. And so I think there's, the studies show that you can always pay more, but you don't necessarily have to. And so I think the case can be made that, whatever building type you're looking at, you're looking for strategies that are going to deliver that building, be it zero energy or a green building, at the same cost as conventional. And what that takes is just a more thoughtful process and an early setting of goals leads to that success.
So it's more the ones that are kind of going wrong or might perceive it to be more expensive because maybe they're getting quotes or kind of the resources are more expensive. It's because they're looking maybe too far down the line of kind of planning the building. And
they might, if they set a goal late in the process, then making those changes can be expensive. And also, when something like this is emerging, the market usually responds with like higher costs. And so I think the reason we're trying to mainstream this is to say, like, if we can make this conventional practice, costs will come down further. And so, but all the evidence we see is that you can build these buildings at the same kind of average cost as what's happening in the market.
Is it tricky for businesses with buildings that maybe they have no plans to start something new, but they want to invest in some way to sort of transform or renovate it green.
Yeah.
Is that tricky at that point?
So here's our challenge.
Yeah.
We have the Paris Accord, we have climate goals, we have states and cities that are adopting those goals, and we are building new buildings, and so we know how to do zero energy and like very green buildings, but we only build at a rate of 1% to 2% of the building stock a year.
Okay.
And so the other 99% we have to renovate, and so companies are looking for, and governments are looking for a process by which they can do that and really achieve those climate goals, because the building sector is so important to that.
Absolutely.
So there's a study by C40 showing that actually most of the near-term actions we need to do on climate are in the building sector. So there's a lot of those activities. So the thing is to understand kind of the life cycle of a building and understand these intervention points, like when does it make sense to do these deep interventions in a building, and you can make that part, you can actually plan it, and you can make it part of a capital plan.
Okay.
And that again is a cost-effective way to do it. So when you're going to do a roof replacement, now's the time to upgrade the insulation. When you're going to do an HVAC upgrade, now's the time to think of a different system. And so I think that understanding the durability cycles of different pieces of the building and when those interventions should happen. And we think about that on a building scale, but we also think about portfolios of buildings, and then we're thinking about the entire market. And so there's again aligning the goals of climate goals like climate action plans with what's happening in the building sector.
Just as you're speaking, I was just thinking. For let's say a company who has the means maybe to they feel okay, we need to make a change, we need to be in a green building. Where we are now, it would be kind of too costly to renovate or sort of build that into this. Let's start with a new building. Is it kind of a catch-22 as far as like let me create a whole new building? Will that in turn be not as sustainable because you're sort of leaving this other building because it didn't serve its purpose to the new goal? Is there kind of a challenge there with kind of being sustainable?
I think every organization that owns a building has to make that choice at some point. Are we going to renovate to make this align with our values? Are we going to make it at the greenest building that we can versus let's leave this building and build a new one? I think it's not. I think you can go green and you could get to those goals either way.
Okay.
Sometimes turning over a building, or selling a building gives that opportunity to someone else to do it.
Okay.
And so we're seeing actually, one of the most advanced policies that's happening right now. It's called building performance standards, where a jurisdiction, for instance, like New York City, has basically said, with local law 97, buildings will have a kind of a cap of how much carbon emissions that they can have, and that will over time be going down. So building owners are going to be making choices. They're basically going to say, I'm going to renovate this building because I think it's a good building and I can achieve these requirements of the city, or they might say, I'm going to sell this building, maybe buy another one, and someone else will get the chance to do that renovation. So, I'd say like there's not a wrong choice there. I just think that you can do it either way. I think, from my perspective, reusing an existing building and doing a deep retrofit is always a great thing, and potentially has a much lower environmental impact. Great answer.
What role do you envision sustainability playing in how the workplace of the future looks like 10 to 20 years from now?
It's fascinating just thinking about where we are today and how, like, 10 to 20 years, 10 years from now, it's going to look dramatically different from today. 20 years, I can't even imagine. But, I think the, notwithstanding, WeWork and what's happening there, shared work environments are, I think, going to be a trend that will continue. Think about mobility and how we're moving to autonomous vehicles, electric autonomous vehicles. how are people going to get to work?
Yeah.
Are they taking transit? Are they taking these or are people working remotely? And so I think this whole question about the workplace is going to be in tremendous flux.
Yeah.
There is a value to people being together to work and collaborate. But there's a lot of people working remotely, and it's a kind of certainly a trend that's been going for some time.
Yeah.
But what that looks like in the future, it's a good question.
Yeah.
But I think the workplace of the future is going to be, it's going to look and feel a lot different. I think like looking at the Candida building here, you walk in that building and the first thing you smell is wood, right?
Okay.
And you see it all around you. So there's this kind of biophilic relationship that you have with the building and the form of the building. It's just so it's this kind of the biophilic aspects. I think we need to do that more in the workplace, right? And so make more nature-oriented design and biophilic design, and really kind of this is what as humans I think we really we need. And then I think how we format the workplace is going to be really different. This idea of like I still have my own office and my own desk. I think I'd be fine with like I come in tomorrow and I have a desk over here. So having that shared workspace, having shared vehicles. I think the sharing economy is the future. So it's it's hard to say what
it is. It is a hard
right?
question. I wouldn't ask it. I think if it was something simple to answer, but I think an interesting response.
But I think that the key things are this kind of biophilic design, the best indoor environmental quality that we know we can deliver today, and then these kind of like life-affirming relationships. This kind of building a culture in your workplace that really is life, kind of life-affirming and supportive. And then of course these facilities should be like carbon positive and great for the environment.
Great. How important do you feel that mentorship is in ensuring that the next generation of leaders understands the importance of and adopts sort of a sustainability consciousness?
I think there could be no more important time than now for us to be really digging deep on mentorship. And within our own organization, we really are working to set up a framework for mentorship, and that includes succession planning. The folks that are working in energy efficiency and in the design community, there's this incredible knowledge base of professionals that are getting older, and we recognize that there's like the need for knowledgeable professionals is just growing, right? And so in order to achieve all these goals that we have around climate, around sustainability, around green building, mentorship is essential. So we've actually, with our Getting to Zero Forum, we have a meeting, next meeting will be in New York City in March of 2021. We work on developing scholarships and bringing both students and young professionals there, and really connecting them with working professionals. We actually do internships as well, and then we are working on developing a process for people to have a pathway to promotion in our organization. But I think one of the things we're doing with our that Getting to Zero Forum hub is providing resources for education, and really making sure that the emerging professionals have those resources. And I actually think there could be no more kind of compelling time in terms of like what we're facing and what the opportunity is, and the fact that we're in this process of moving to action, right? And so I think this is actually exciting for this kind of next generation of leaders that are coming, and so mentorship is really essential.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that. I think it's great that you're not only giving back and you see value in it, but kind of helping look at sort of where can we start from like the beginning, not just sort of make sure people care about and keep going late in their career, but kind of grow up with this backbone. Just to finish off, why do you get up and do what you do?
Again, I think it goes back to why I started in my career, because I I have such a strong connection with the environment, and I'm really driven by sustainability. So, our recent, we had our Getting to Zero Forum in Oakland in October, and even with the fact that there were power shutoffs because there were wildfires all over the state, right? Even with the fact that we've seen the kind of climate crisis that's happening, in that meeting, we had standing room only in the education sessions and the plenaries, and there was just this like incredible sense of optimism and enthusiasm, which in the face of crisis, it's definitely encouraging. And so I'd say, like, seeing the good work we're doing and the impact that we're having is really is what motivates me, and so I feel like I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can, like, how can I best use the skills that I have and the talent of our team to have the biggest impact. So that's what we're focused on, and so that's what kind of gets me out of bed in the morning. And
that's incredible.
And I also have to say I have 2 beautiful children and my wife, and my family, like the future of my family is really important to me, and the future that we leave for our children is really important to me. And so I want them to understand that I'm doing everything that I can, to leave the planet in a better place than it might have been if we were not doing all this work. So we have a huge effort ahead of us, but I have a lot of optimism about our ability to address it.
Sounds great. It sounds like you are a fantastic role model to your children, and I think doing a lot of great work. And your passion shows as you talk about it. So it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
Yeah.